Hi everyone, Laura Allerton here with Your Certain Real Estate. I woke up this morning in an interesting mood, actually thinking a little bit about the emotional side of investing. And any of you that know me know that I'm always on the business end. I'm always talking numbers, looking at cash flow, looking at all of those, regulation sides and best ways and value from a business aspect. That's definitely who I am, but I'm still human. And so what I wanted to kind of come to talk about today is managing a successful real estate business with heart. And I was thinking also, what makes me different than other landlords? Both the good and the bad on that, of course. And one of the key pieces was my vulnerability. And not so much rather it's a man or a woman, but being connected to my core values and even how my core values are affected in my real estate business. So with that, for me, my base, and I think, what I've shared with many of you in the past is why I'm even involved in real estate, and certainly have a background also in not-for-profit sector, is that I truly believe that everyone deserves a home. I am Aquarius, so I have my altruistic belief and belief in good in everyone. So certainly I'm lucky, or sometimes it's interesting in my house that my husband can be such a pessimist about things as well, and I guess that helps keep us under control, and the fact that I don't do what I did in my 20s, which was rent out units to all my friends and make no money. So certainly the fact that I do the numbers so hard is because I've been there and I've made those mistakes, and I've fallen for a really good story and ended up in a situation where my business wasn't making me any money. So how do we bridge the gap between managing that business with heart and managing a successful business? So I was kind of thinking today, I've had a few recent difficulties thinking in the last year of having some issues where people that I've given a chance to and it didn't work out. And so I was kind of thinking a lot, and I think that's what we get to, is a lot of the negative stories. And I had probably one of my hardest evictions last August. Was a fantastic couple that I put in. I think over and over again, I went through it, and discussions with my husband and a number of colleagues. I honestly wouldn't have changed anything. Their references were great. They came in with good pieces. I wondered in hindsight, did I not ask enough questions? Were there different things? But also, what is it that happens when life changes? So what I've experienced is, whether I'm giving someone a chance or not, most times when a circumstance occurs is due to a life change. So couple breaks up, someone loses their job, God forbid someone gets incredibly sick or dies. And that's the true harsh reality that I've experienced, is that when I've taken someone on who may or may not have great credit, that hasn't been the issue that has resolved, that has resulted in a problem per se. It's been a loss of job, a breakup, or something else. So how do we manage for those life circumstances that happen in our businesses with our tenants while protecting ourselves and also being able to be open and emotional a little bit sometimes too? And I don't need to have someone be perfect. So one of the big pieces that I always talk about is, so my three sections for a reference check when looking at accepting a tenant. So obviously I'm looking at income verification and employment. I want to know they can pay their rent. I'm going to look at credit history, and I'm going to look at past landlord. And what I always say is that they all three can't be bad. But, have you ever had a situation where you rented to someone who didn't have credit, or hadn't had a landlord yet, or maybe was on a fixed income, or even in between jobs, new to the city? So I've had all of these circumstances. And so when trying to kind of break it down, and I probably got up on the wrong side of the bed for a moment and was feeling a little bit upset on the negative circumstances. We recently had a skip over Christmas, and this was a nice young couple. We were happy to give them an opportunity in this basement suite. They broke up just before the holidays, and then obviously weren't able to maintain. And instead of talking to me about it, they left. And is that the first experience I'm ever going to have with an abandonment property? No. And why did it bother me more was kind of what I was digging into, is that, I had given these guys a chance. So you get that extra kind of emotional tie to it. And then I thought about all the different people I've supposedly given a chance. And for me, really, what is that? What is giving someone a chance? It's being open, it's communicating, it's listening to their story. And I started making a list of all the good circumstances. So, off the top of my head, in the last year, I mean, I manage about 100 properties. So in the last year, I have about 4 not great stories. One that, like I said, was probably one of my worst in this past year. Economy, we start to see more people are struggling. And then I started thinking about all the good ones. And the list just went longer and longer and longer. And the tenants and the people that I've made long-term relationships with, people that we've moved from one property to a next, where they've started out in a basement suite with us as a new young couple, got married, moved into a townhouse with us, had their first child, had an opportunity to help them purchase their first home. I mean, these are the stories, and those success stories, for me, they are not different than the ones that failed. It's not like one person was bad and one person was good. A lot of this can be life. Now, am I reaching a little further when I'm giving people a chance? So, what are your deal breakers? What are your limit credits that you look at? Will you consider a co-signer for a new student that hasn't had a landlord reference before or hasn't built up credit? So thinking about what makes it where you can manage with heart and not be screwed without becoming Scrooge, without making it so difficult that no one can even move into your property unless they're ready to buy a house. Because really that's the gap, right? What is the gap we're looking at right now is we're actually have a lot more opportunities for tenants in rental properties because they've made it much more difficult. So with those changes in the mortgage rules that we've seen, a lot of people aren't qualifying for the home that they want to buy. They're having to take longer time, or they need to build their credit up, or they need to build their employment history. These are the reasons why they're renting from us. So what's the difference between why I would take A or B? And so my neat opportunity recently is verifying that. So I'm not going to get into big sob stories. If somebody is telling me a song and dance about every single thing that's happened, and even if it's true, but that they've just had an unfortunate situation after situation, probably not going to fall into that. But if someone is honestly sharing a circumstance that may have been for a recent loss of job or a recent circumstance, then I'm going to listen and I'm going to verify it. And so recently I just had a circumstance with a new applicant that I declined because I wasn't able to verify that information. So I think there's a component to managing with heart and also not basically having the wool pulled over our eyes, right? We still need to be strategic real estate investors. We're still running a business, but in my business, I do value people and I value relationship. I value getting to know my tenants and working with them. And so with that, what I wonder for people to think about or take away from today is, who is your ideal tenant? And I actually have a full kind of a document that I've done that goes pretty deep into visualizing and creating that ideal tenant so you understand who it is that you're looking for. I have a great colleague who believes that by doing this great work, you'll actually also materialize them. So there's nothing wrong with that. And so please message me. I'd love to see anybody join on the list for more information like this. It's in the link above. And if you're interested, send me an email as well, and I can send you that ideal tenant review profile. And then with that, again, thinking about that ideal tenant, would or could something ever happen in their lives? We all know none of us are protected from that. And so what are the protections that you put in? What is the mitigation of risk that you're going to do so that you can manage your business the way you want while still being human and being prepared for those risks? And again, that's something I would love to hear from people. Please share maybe in the chat here on the group or back and forth in email on any experience that you might have had, or even one where you might want some help with. I certainly do lots of one-on-one coaching with different investors. And I think for a final note, probably my biggest success and greatest success story was my own, is that, any that know me, I didn't start out easy. Generally, if it was the only path for me, generally was if it was going to be the hard way. And so I moved out super early. I pretty much left my house at 14, 15 years old. Stayed in a group home type situation for about a year or so. I was pretty quick getting into my first apartment at 16. And, someone gave me that chance. And I actually probably started becoming a real estate investor. If you think my career probably started when I was 16 because someone gave me a chance and I did not have a lot of money. I was on student assistance. I was still trying to do high school. And so someone gave me a chance, and in turn, I gave others a chance. And so I ended up being a bit of a den mother where I would bring on a roommate. I handled the cooking and cleaning. I looked after different things, and I would just take a room and board. It'd probably be like your original Airbnb to some degree, except they stayed with me longer term, and I didn't always make the greatest decisions on whom I would give a chance to. So I've had lots and lots of opportunity to learn and get to know people. But lots of people gave me a chance. They rented to me when I essentially had nothing. What was I? I was a teenager, right? I was in high school. I had some part-time job, but otherwise was on student assistance. I generally had a pet, so God forbid, and everybody knows what I'm like with the pets. So would you give a chance to that person? And thinking about that, and 16 is a stretch, so let's call them 18. And what would you require, and what would be those risk pieces? And so because of that, I started my first business. I purchased my first property at 20, started my first business at 18. I believe that that's based on people giving me a chance and taking that opportunity. So just being young or not having something doesn't make us good or bad or right or wrong. So I just thought it might be fun for people to kind of delve into that for the beginning of the year, looking at, our preparation to come and how we can be ourselves in our business, put our pieces around risk management, be authentic, and run a great business. So I just thought I would bring that to everyone today. I hope you have a fantastic 2020, and I look forward to seeing some feedback. And like I said, please sign up for our email list, and I will send you also that tenant profile. Have a great day.